Welcome to the Ditch the Struggle podcast. I'm your host, Alana Roso. I'm a graphic designer and career and success coach who knew I could do better, but kept falling short of where I wanted to go. From career struggles and anxiety to feeling like nothing is ever going to work out, I'm here to explore all the messy stuff that breaks us down and builds us up. So join me as we transform ourselves and finally ditch the struggle. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Today, we are going to talk about people pleasing. People pleasers, where are you? I know you're out there. Wave your hands. I've got my hands up too. Because, well, I think I'm a recovering people pleaser, but hey, we fall into those patterns. It is like innate within us. Like if you have spent most of your life people pleasing, this is a hard one to let go of. Or to work through or to bring it back down. So it's not totally running your life. Chances are, if you are feeling some struggle in your life, you are people pleasing in some areas, that you are overdoing it. You are giving too much of yourself. You are sacrificing your life so that you can help others. And meanwhile, you're drained and you're curled up on the bathroom floor, exhausted and resentful. Like the resentment piece will kick in. And this is one of the things I always noticed was like, I would just feel angry and resentful. And here's the thing, a lot of the time I was the one to blame because I was the one overgiving, overdoing, overdelivering, doing too much for others. And people pleasing can be a great way to gain approval and to feel worthy and to have self-worth and to feel liked. And so many people have a fear of being disliked. And that was something I for sure had and must have been some, fun childhood trauma that came up because who doesn't want to be liked? Although I'm kind of getting to the point where it definitely doesn't matter as much because if everyone likes you, I think there's something wrong. You can't be everyone's cup of tea. And as long as you have a core group of people that are kind of around you and keeping you grounded and you have that a good small base, I think that's what matters. This is with wisdom of age, I guess, but this is just what happens. The people pleasing thing, it's so exhausting and it's a game you can't play forever. Because at some point you will be on that bathroom floor. At some point you will have the migraine. At some point you will have something happen that you're like, I cannot do this enough. I cannot do this anymore. This is enough. So let's look at what people pleasing is. This is kind of a little bit of my definition. People pleasers are individuals who are averse to saying no, desperately need others to like them in order to feel good about themselves, avoid conflict at all costs, and have no concept of boundaries. People pleasers are often also tremendously insecure. They constantly question their own decisions because they fear both being criticized and letting others down. So we have like a whole hot mix of stuff going on here. At the end of the day, it's hard to say no, and they need others to like them. And they just feel insecure. And so they question their own decisions and they just want to keep doing more and more and more and do that over-deliver thing, just like over-deliver all the time. And I would say sometimes when my people-pleasing comes up, it's over-delivering for clients or like kind of going up and beyond sometimes when it's really not necessary and exhausting myself a little bit more. And here, I was that person that I've just described, check, check, and check. I was doing all these things. But then eventually, my emotional and physical breakdowns became too much and I was just ignoring my own needs all the time. And it's that feeling of you play this game, like if I just give a little bit more, everything will be okay and everyone will like me and everything's just going to settle and this will be it. And like I'm kind of just, the bar just keeps moving though. The carrot just keeps dangling further and further away. And you just think that I just need to do more and more and more and it's all going to just fall into place. It's just a matter of me like people pleasing more, which is so insane. Where this need comes from is some insecurities that I think come from childhood stuff. It always comes down to that. Needing to be liked, needing to control a situation. And God forbid someone thinks that you're being like unfair. And I will tell you that when you, or like, if they think you're being unfair or selfish, if you want to move away from people pleasing, you better believe you have to be okay with someone thinking you're selfish and or self-centered or being difficult. Not easy to do, right? Because who wants to really be labeled those things? But the cost, there's the classic coaching question that is so good. And sometimes I will say, ask myself this question. When you're figuring out whether to keep doing a behavior or not, you just ask yourself, what is it costing me? What is it costing me to continue this? What is it costing you to continue to be a people pleaser with no boundaries and just letting people like demand as much as they want from you and just like go, go, go. And if you're in corporate, man, you're probably doing pretty well because corporate loves people pleasing. They love people pleasers. It works really, really well because the more you deliver, the more they benefit and the more they profit. So if you try and set a boundary, like that's a whole other thing in corporate culture that can be super difficult and there can be repercussions and it can sometimes go really south. It's not easy to be that person that's like, I'm going to sometimes put myself first. Yes, there are times when we have to prioritize other people in our life if it's a sick parent or someone's going through something and you kind of just need to really be there for someone. But even then, to what end? I used to take a Pilates class. It was amazing. It was a few years ago, and the woman that ran it had just made her basement into a little Pilates studio, and it was really small, but it was really nice, and it was word of mouth. Like it was like not exclusive, but it just felt like no one really knew about it. But if you heard about it, you were like kind of in this class. It was so incredible because not only was the instructor amazing, but it had the biggest variety of people in this class and of every single age. I remember looking around and being like, every decade is represented here from the 20s to the 70s. It was so cool. I love that. Like, I love a mix of people with different ages and different backgrounds and different stories to tell. That just really, I love hearing that or seeing that or experiencing that. And there was one woman, Barb, and rest in peace, Barb. She was so lovely. She was in her 70s and she came to class dripping in diamonds. Her husband was a jeweler and she would wear her black outfit and sometimes like her black kind of like Lululemon, but I swear it had like lace on it. It was like really pretty. And she would have a whole bunch of diamonds on her, like diamond necklaces, diamond earrings, bracelets, the whole thing. And she would be doing her Pilates. And I was like, I love this woman so much. I was like, this is like, why not wear your diamonds to Pilates? Or why not wear your cubic zirconia to Pilates, right? So I was really stressed out after a class and she was talking with me a bit outside on the street. I was telling her about a lot of the stuff I was doing to help take care of my mom, who was really challenging, especially in the later years. And she just looked at me and she said, one life is not more important than another. And what she was saying to me is like, you can't kill yourself to try and help someone. So that was an extreme example of where I was like going above and beyond. But of course, it's a parent. It's a very different situation than just like a friend who's asking you to babysit for the 50th time or someone who wants you to contribute to the bake sale. Again, it was different. But the message really landed. And it was like, okay, I have to take care of myself a little bit. And I wasn't doing that because I was really very much in the people pleaser mode. And a lot of that for many people is because people pleasing does allow you to be the martyr. So what is a martyr? Well, I looked this one up on the internet, and according to Merriam-Webster, a martyr is someone who sacrifices something of great value and especially life itself for the sake of principle. So it's like, I'm just going to keep going and going and going until like I've literally lost my life. Like I've given up everything for the sake of principle because this is what I think is the right thing to do. Now, I don't actually think it's principle in many cases. I think it's under the guise of principle, but it's actually because we want to be liked. It's actually because we get value from being the person who over-delivers and from the praise that we potentially get. So here's kind of my definition of a martyr. A martyr is someone who has no time for themselves, brags about doing everything for everyone else, loves ignoring their needs, and is waiting for the Olympics to give them a gold medal for exhaustion. It's just like we're waiting for that gold medal. We're waiting for like someone to notice how hard we're working. Generally speaking, if I meet someone and they instantly start telling me about all the stuff they're doing and all the running around they're doing, and I'm running from this charity and this PTA meeting and blah, 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 and they're going on and on and on. It's often it's martyrdom happening. Like, it's like they need others to see them as sacrificial or as sacrificing themselves all the time. Like, that is important to them, because why are they telling me, especially if I've just met them, that they're doing all this stuff? Like, it's not just that they're busy. It's like, look at all the things I'm doing. Oh, I have to do this. I have no time for myself. Like, anyone who brags about no time for themselves, I was like, okay, here we go. Because it's not just like you're upset and angry that you don't have time for yourself. Like, that's kind of normal because you're people pleasing and doing it. But if you're bragging about it, it's like, okay, now you want to be recognized. This is just my opinion, for being the one who sacrifices themselves. And then that's the martyrdom. And that is a really slippery slope to be on, because you are just going to keep doing the people pleasing in order to get that piece of you, that little part met, like satisfied, that has to do all that stuff. And just like tap yourself out because you think it's actually going to make you look better, which is kind of crazy. Like, and then it's going to be when you have to try and pull back from this behavior, it is so uncomfortable. It is so hard, because this really comes down to the boundaries. It's like, no, I'm not going to do that, or I can't do that right now. Like, saying no to someone, saying no to a client, man, that can be really, really hard. And you're not going to like it. You're just not going to like it, because they're going to potentially be disappointed in you. And here's a little story about a couple years ago. I was doing freelance for one particular design client. Someone leaves the company and they go to another company. And I had this feeling, I was like, I think they're going to probably ask me to do some freelance work and kind of work with them again. I loved working with this person. And sure enough, she calls me and she's like, this organization's great and I'd love you to do some freelance, and talks about the whole thing and like all this stuff, and it was going to be good money and all the things, like check, and check, all these ticking the boxes, right? I was like, okay, but I knew that I needed to say no to this. I was pretty tapped out. I had quite a few clients, design clients. I had some coaching clients. I had a lot going on. Now, here's what was tricky. I was not maxed out. I was not like, I have no time, and I was like, I could squish this in if I just work a couple weekends and I just did this. I could probably have one more client. Okay, this is danger bay. This is when you're like, that's where you need to be like, no. But I didn't really want to say no because I liked this person a lot and I didn't want to let them down. And I potentially could have done it. And then I was uncomfortable. But I really, really thought it through. And I was like, I cannot take on this project. Like, I will just be putting myself back to really where I've been pulling myself out of, like the overworking vibe. So when we talked next, after she had, given me the whole kind of pitch, and then we had to hop on a call. And I actually think she thought I was going to say, yeah, let's just like move along and keep going and work together. So when I said, no, I can't take on any more freelance, she was disappointed. She was nice about it, but she said she was sad to hear that we wouldn't be able to work together. I mean, I don't want to hear that. Like, it's really hard when you're an empath and you're just be like, I'm sad that I can't work with you. And it's like, I want to work with you. Like, part of me was like, I want to work with you again. But I know that if I had said yes to that particular client, I was just people pleasing. I was like making her happy. Like, at the end of the day, yes, I would have been paid for it and I would have, like there was an energy exchange. But it was more about me wanting her to be happy and not let her down and just like maintain great client relationships. Of course, I try and do that. And, you can still maintain a great client relationship and say no. But I had to catch myself. And that is normal to feel off and like about something like that, to feel that it's cringy, feel difficult when you are so used to being that people pleaser who's always just putting other people's like needs first and what they want. So I had to decide in that moment to disappoint her and to let her down. and now to be seen as a person who said no. Another way that I was often people-pleasing was by driving people around all the time, being a chauffeur. Let's call it my chauffeur era. Especially when I was younger, I was that person who just drove everybody all the time. Oh, you need a ride to this? You need a ride to that? Oh my God, you're like this. I was always driving people around. And if it was coffee or going out, I would go to their area of the city. They wanted to hang out. I would go to their house. For some reason, I was like always in my car. Now, I have a theory about this. I also think that being in my car kind of, especially when I was like a teenager, would get me out of the house and kind of give me peace away from kind of the conflict and combat that was happening in my house. So it was like a way to kind of run away temporarily. But I also think it was just about like their convenience. And people pleasing is so much about their convenience. What's better for them? You don't even think about what's good for you because what you want is going to hurt them or make them uncomfortable or like make them disgruntled. So you can't think about what you want, right? That would be selfish. You'd be a selfish troll to think about what you want. Like that's what happens. Our minds are so crazy. So I was this person who just drove everyone around. I was just like literally a chauffeur. And I was known for like, oh, I'll come and pick you up and then I'll drop you off. And like, I look back and I can't believe how inconvenient I made my life. I didn't care that it was completely out of my way, that I would have to go through rush hour traffic, that the timing wasn't good for me. Yeah, I don't do that anymore. I am happy to drive someone who doesn't have a car or it's late at night. Of course, I'm going to drive that person home. Like, I want to be reasonable, but it's just I was being completely unreasonable. Looking back, it was like I wasn't thinking about what was good for me at all. So to break this habit of people-pleasing, for me, it was about noticing when the resentment was bubbling up. That was always my indication that a boundary is being crossed. And what is this crossed boundary all about? Is it because I'm overdoing something for someone or like overworking myself and going too far? That's usually what it was. That was a huge part of the struggle. Sometimes the resentment was that I just didn't want to have to work so hard because the client sucked or I was being underpaid or whatever it was. There were those instances as well. But I will tell you that so much was actually simply tied to people pleasing. Just going too far, ignoring my own needs and putting myself last. So the question is, if you are a people pleaser, you are choosing to put yourself last or close to last. Why are you doing that? And not with judgment, but like out of curiosity, like why are you doing that? You can't just say, I want to make the world a better place and make everyone happy. Like it doesn't work that way. Because you actually can't make the world a better place if you are constantly tired, exhausted, and angry and resentful. You can't. So there has to be some harmony. There has to be reciprocation, give and take. So the thing is, if you're a people pleaser, people will find you like a moth to a flame and they will take and take and take. Like some people have no consideration and no awareness as to how much they're taking. They don't even know they're takers. So like people pleasers obviously attract those takers and they will just like siphon everything out of you. You don't really want those people. Like I have friends and I'll be like, I'll kind of go above and beyond for them. And they're like, okay, you know what? No, you don't have to do that. Just like sit down. Like don't do that. No worries. And they have the awareness and perspective and the normalcy to be like, no, you're not going to do that. That's ridiculous. Just like, you're not coming this weekend, just whatever you need to do. Those are the good people in your life. You want to keep those. But the people that take, those ones you need to get out. And you need to really come to terms with the fact that you probably let them take, and you open the door, the invitation was there. They sussed you out, they figured you out. They were like, okay, she will just give me what I want. And moving away from that, setting those boundaries, not being liked, changing course, it's going to feel really uncomfortable. You're actually going to, I would feel sometimes sick to my stomach. Like there's just like a knot in your stomach. Like, no, And this is where I draw the line in my sand. This happened and still happens to me. There was, I set a boundary a few days ago about something and kind of work related. And I felt really uncomfortable for a few hours. And then I thought that was a completely reasonable statement to make and declaration to make. Why am I feeling like it wasn't? Like there was a weird feeling I had. I felt weird about it. And I was like, okay, that's just the old people pleaser steering the ship here and feeling like they shouldn't have done that, like the guilt about that, because objectively, it was a totally normal boundary. And that's what's weird. You lose perspective as to what's normal, what's weird, what makes sense. Here it all comes down to this. If you keep doing this, you keep people pleasing, and you're angry and resentful all the time, exhausted, tired, and have no time for yourself, and are just like feeling crappy about yourself, I would say your plan is not working. I would say you need to shift plans. I would say being more selfish and coming back to yourself and doing the, I'm going to say it, the self-care and all of those things is imperative. And I know it's hard, but this is what needs to happen. And also, I would highly recommend walking through in your head what the fear is of you saying no to something, because a lot of the times people pleasing means like ending it means saying no to someone. No, I can't do that. Walking through and thinking through what's the worst case scenario of that, and just kind of looking at it objectively, like, is it really the end of the world? Probably not. And then at the true core of all of this, I believe getting comfortable with people not liking you is key. Kind of a strange thing to say because, yes, it's normal to want to be liked, but getting comfortable with the fact that that's just not going to fly all the time. And then you can start to okay, I can let this people pleaser go. I can be in the recovery program as opposed to the full-on cheerleading squad of the people pleasers, and your life will shift and change, and for the better, because I know that I definitely have more energy when I start to recognize and shut down the people pleasing, because it serves them. It doesn't really serve you. You think it does, but it doesn't. Take care, guys. Thank you for joining me today on Ditch the Struggle. Be sure to follow this podcast, visit alanaroso.com, and of course, share it so we can build each other up. And before I go, remember to be your own best advocate, take baby steps for the win, and forget about a linear career path. It's overrated and you are doing just fine. See you next time.